Sorry about that. Thank you, Christy. Um, Sorry for the rough start. So before we get started, I just wanted to give a little bit of a shout out to Robert from True Crime Cult. And for those of you who don't know who Robert is, he's oftentimes my streaming friend on the weekends. And but he had a heart incident earlier today, so his wife stopped by the chat to let us know. And we just want to keep him in our prayers. And if you have a moment, maybe you could visit his channel, which is True Crime Cult 166, and maybe just leave him a nice message so that he knows that we're thinking about him. He has a wonderful family at home and a beautiful little daughter, so we just want him to get better soon. And welcome back to my show. With that said, I have a nice little program for you tonight. We have some updates. We also have some commentary. And I'm going to start right out. With what our most prominent story is right now. Sorry, I'm a little shaken about the Robert news. So I'm going to start by pulling up an article, and by far the most talked about thing going on right now is the latest revelations out of the Howard Bloom book. So for most of you who have caught it, he recently did a mainstream media interview, and he released that he feels that Maddie was the target. And this has been alluded to by other people before, but I wanted to go a little bit deeper into this. And I brought a few different things for you to look at, and I think you'd be interested. And I'm kind of ignoring the chat. Sorry, guys. Hi, Christy. Hi, Heather and Joey, Mikey. Thank you for all being here. Jack, Tarek. I'm going to start by reading this article. And then I'm going to show you we're going to go a little bit deeper into this. I have some theories, and I've kind of brought to you the best of what I could find for commentary on this. So let me just read you this extremely brief article. It says, University of Idaho killer has sole target when he killed 4 students in off-campus home. Bryan Kohberger, who is accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students in their on-campus house in 2022, may have been targeting one victim when he carried out the quadruple slaying. According to the book that comes out next week, Howard Bloom, author of When the Night Comes Calling, told ABC News that Kohberger's main target was Madison Mogen, 21. Bloom said the killer passed by 2 bedroom doors to find and kill Mogen. If he was just on a killing spree, it would have been natural, instinctive to go into one of those doors, Bloom stated. Instead, he goes up this narrow staircase and he turns directly into Maddie's room. Kohberger's attorneys have claimed Kohberger was not at the crime scene, was driving around alone the night Mogen, Zana, Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin and Kaylee Gonzalez were fatally stabbed at their women's off-campus home on November 13th, 2022. Mogen was found dead in her bed next to Gonzalez. A knife sheath was reportedly discovered near their bodies. Downstairs on the second floor, Kernodle was found slain next to Chapin, her boyfriend. 2 surviving roommates discovered the bodies and called cops. Police claimed Kohberger visited the area 12 times before the slayings and turned off his phone the night in question. Investigators tested DNA from the trash can outside Kohberger's family home in Pennsylvania against DNA found on the knife sheath at the crime scene. Testing determined that at least 99.998% of the male population would be expected to be excluded from the possibility of being suspect's biological father. At the times of the slayings, Kohberger was obtaining his PhD in criminology from Washington State University, which is located 10 miles from the crime scene. He was arrested in Pennsylvania in December 2022 after taking a cross-country trip with his father from Washington to Pennsylvania. Bloom went on to tell ABC that Kohberger's father was suspicious, on edge about his son's possible role in the slayings, and when he picked him up at college, one of Kohberger's siblings talked to their father about Kohberger being the culprit, but the father dismissed it despite his underlying feelings. He can't confront it, the journalist, or we should say the writer said. offering to Kohberger's father. The Journal is a book that if it was this wouldn't be in the fiction. So it's hard to categorize this book. Prosecutors filed court documents detailing their intent to pursue the death penalty as they deemed the slayings were especially heinous, atrocious, and cruel. A trial date has not been set. When the Night Comes Calling comes out June 25th. So, before I tie in the next piece, I'm just going to look at the chat. I know some people are, Joey says, Swamp, Joe Vito. Oh, the soda camera, this is the second time I've heard this in like 72 hours. Learning a lot about the grub truck. With all due respect, Mr. Bloom, he came out of nowhere with a fictional viewpoint of this tragedy just to make some money. I think that that's a pretty accurate observation. Thank you for keeping Robert in your prayers. And yes, please go leave Robert a message. Let him know that we're thinking about him. Just my I'm just going to. Oh, I didn't want to do that. I changed it. It changed my lighting a little. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm going to pull up the next tie-in to this. I think you guys are going to find this really interesting. So the next thing I want to show you is I had 2 quotes from Howard Bloom, and we're just going to go down a couple of facts I know about him. So if this is true, it could make a lot of sense to me. But I want to read you, actually, first we'll go into these details. So if Howard Bloom says that Maddie was a target, there are a couple things that would really make sense about that scenario. Let me just take down my shared screen so I can talk. I think I should probably change the whoa. I'm just gonna change this blue lighting because it was like not showing up. Okay, that's a lot better. Sorry about that. Hi, Jackie, and I hope you're doing well too. I know you've been going through a lot lately as well. Okay. So I wrote down a couple thoughts after reading this, and then I'm going to pull up to you some kind of like the other side of the story. So I watched a video by JB Gunner earlier, and he pointed out something that I hadn't really thought about before. So on the counter was the Jack in the Box order. So if Zana had received the food and then went back into a room with the food, why would the bag already be back out on the counter with a drink that isn't consumed? And if she didn't bring the bag into the bedroom, why did she receive the bag and then just put it on the counter and walk away? And that kind of made me think about, and that kind of made me think about brings me to a powerful analysis that A.R. Hayes gave on my channel last week regarding the crime scene, which really caught people's attention the other day. And it got me thinking that, okay, if Maddie was the target and Zana went and got her DoorDash, she could have been confronted in the kitchen, because I've talked to quite a few people who, not quite a few, I've talked to about 2 or 3 people who are saying that there are, particularly AR, that analyze the crime scene and say that there likely was some sort of struggle in the kitchen, but there was definitely, I should be reading from my notes. But either way, so AR was basically saying, and so did 12, that you could see a lot of forensic activity in the living room and the kitchen. It looked like the drawers were all pulled out, or that something had either been, there had been a struggle, or there had been a ransacking in the kitchen of some sort, but there was definitely visible blood in different places. And it just made me think, if Zana was the one that said, there's someone here, then she could have confronted the unaliver in the kitchen. And that's when Ethan came into play. And so that was just a thought to me, and especially after hearing, different opinions in my live stream. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to play you a couple sound bites just to kind of solidify what we're talking about. So what I was thinking is I made a video about Zana that was extremely popular. It was several months back, and it was basically about her last activity on her phone. So I got the information from Jeff H, and I kind of edited it into a video. But what's beautiful about this video is it actually shows Zana and some of her TikToks and just the beautiful life that she was living, because she was just a very special person. So I'd like to show you this clip because it's kind of my receipt that we know Zana was up and awake at that time. She wasn't asleep in her bed. So let me get that. By the way, thank you for so many people showing up for a late night live stream. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I have a whole thing on Linda Lane tonight. The very last segment we're going to do, I've been researching the Linda Lane origins, and I have all sorts of notes, and I have an entire, if we get to it, I have documented what I can. But it's interesting you guys are talking about that. And it's just so interesting when we start talking about Linda Lane, how we kind of end up back at the grub truck. I don't know. But I think I've always kind of suspected that he either saw him or saw his car and gave a description of it. But that's just speculation. There's some interesting things in this script that I printed out. Basically, when the original Linda Lane footage was leaked, there was a lot of things that were said to the people they were trying to leak it to about what they could find on that footage. And a lot of it was about white or light color cars that were leaving. And none of the times they gave were actually the time frame we normally look at. But yeah, so not to get off subject. Hey, AR, good to see you here. AR, I'm going to play a clip from you in a minute from your segment that you did on my live stream the other night. So I'm going to pull up this Zana clip. I feel like this isn't going as smooth as I thought it would. And if you want to come back to my page, it's that picture you saw in the beginning was Zana with a natty light can. So this is a pretty short video, but I'm going to play the whole thing. I think it's very beautiful.
I want to talk about Zana Kernadal and her last social media activities today. We are aware that Zana was on TikTok just minutes before killer entered the residence on King Road and slayed 4 of 6 students in the house. Zana was in the second-floor bedroom with her boyfriend, Ethan Shaping, and both were slain. Zana was beautiful and outgoing, and a lot of her personality could be seen on TikTok videos. She can also be seen in other people's TikTok videos, and always appeared to be having such a great time. This right here is possibly one of the last videos Zana watched on TikTok. If we go to the comment section, we see that she even took the time to comment, saying Queen. The date is the 13th November 2022. How terribly sad to think about.
What's this?
It's an art project.
Okay, I like it. Picasso.
For this, but my babe was found, so we gotta go get it. I don't know where the fuck my car keys are. I won't drive like I could. I won't. Let's go. No, let's fucking go. Who could? No, I can't drive. Well, shit. I'll do it. No. Don't pee. Don't fucking pee. Wow, that's aggressive. Okay. I'm just no. Guys, like I don't like her. I'm like
Today I just wanted to talk about Zana because I have reported a few things that I was mistaken about in the past regarding Xana's TikTok activity. And what I'm showing you right now is the last TikTok that Zana Kernodle ever made. And this was the TikTok activity that was referenced in the PCA. And she wrote, "Never forget the foundation in the bathtub." So there was also another post earlier that evening where she wrote "Queen" that you saw at the beginning of that video I just played. So I just wanted to discuss this for a second. So in the past, we've said possibly TikTok itself could have produced the activity at that time. Maybe it wasn't Zana. I've also heard that if somebody was, evil enough to do what they did, they'd be evil enough to pick up the phone and pretend they're Zana as well. But this TikTok this comment sort of, for me personally, shakes away kind of the doubt on that, because she's saying, never forget the foundation in the bathtub. And that apparently was a childhood joke with this TikTok creator. She had broke one of the mother's foundations in the bathtub when they were in 8th grade. And it was funny or something along those lines. So I just thought I had an obligation to show this information that I had cleared up to me about a week ago. I thought it'd be worth sharing it with you so that you have the information too, and you can do with it, what you need to do. So I've got a few comments here. Zana seemed like so much fun.
let's go. No, let's fucking go. No, I can't. Well, shit.
I don't know how you can watch that without getting chills. Like what a beautiful life. The point was to show you that we have established some sort of timeline. And okay, so Mikey says, depends on the settings and notification, stays active in the background and can very well go directly to the site if it sets it that way on your homepage or whatever. And I don't disagree with that. I mean, I think we haven't had it confirmed officially by authorities that was her last text, but I think that's kind of a pretty solid word on the street. So we don't know if she left a message or if it was just TikTok activity. And you're saying the last one was Queen? I think it was the foundation in the bathtub, but it could be either or. They were both made that night. And you think it meant Queen Road. I like that's an interesting comment. I know. No, you meant Bess. Okay, so let's get back to what we were focusing on, because out of order court was bringing it up. So this statement kind of summarizes where we're at in this presentation. So the food arrived while Bryan was upstairs in Maddie's room. Either that or when he was in the process. I don't know, but we know the Jack in the Box, or we know the DoorDash delivery was still on the counter, and the drink. And if we think about it, could she have, if the food arrived at 4:05 and the person who committed this crime was gone by 4:19, would she have been able to bring her food into the room, eat it, and then why wouldn't she throw it in the trash? Why would she put the bag back on the counter? So my thought is, that kind of indicates the food never left the kitchen. And one of the, I'm going to play ARs. I'm going to play ARs because there are some things that AR brought up from his perspective. I think when we know now what's being, and again, we're going to go into the counter arguments to Bloom's statements after we get through all of this. But if we are going to go with the work off of the premise that Maddie was the target, we should listen to again to what AR said the other day, because it kind of puts it into a different perspective. So I'm going to play that. So it's a 3-minute segment, and then I'm going to skip forward and play another 2.5-minute segment, but it's worth it. And honestly, the comments I got off this video is that everybody's interested in what he's having to say. So you guys are really going to enjoy this if you haven't seen it yet. I hope AR is still in the audience. All right, so it is, if you're come to my page, it's this one with the arrow on it. What happened on the second floor?
I'm going to give you a little bit. I am releasing a video, so I don't want to give away too much of my thoughts, but I'm actually doing a convict's thoughts in regards to the crime scene itself. What I, as a criminal, walking this crime scene on the outside and on the inside of the house, would be specifically looking for, based off of my experience committing crimes, not only of planning, but then the break-in and the commission of the crime, and then the exit of the crime. So I'm going to actually that's my next series of videos. I believe, and the reason why I believe it's so sealed, and this is just my opinion, it's just a thought. They have a weapon. They found a weapon. I guarantee you, in this very case, the way they were invested.
Okay, I'm just going to pause right there. I'm sorry to break up AR's thoughts. I shouldn't be doing that, but I'm looking at this two different ways now. I'm not just thinking like it was another weapon brought into the house, although he says what I'm about to say in a second. I'm thinking if Zana was in the kitchen, or if Ethan was in the kitchen with this DoorDash order, the weapon could have been something in there. Or they bring up golf clubs in a minute. Could Ethan came in with a golf club? I'm just going to get out one other thought too. I'm sorry to keep trailing off on things, but like as a woman, and so, you know, men might not have this same thought, but as a woman, we're taught, you know, there are certain weapons you should and shouldn't carry. Like for instance, a woman shouldn't use a baseball bat to protect themselves, because a man who has like stronger shoulder width and, you know, lungs and bigger heart, bigger lungs, they could grab that bat from you and use it on them. So, I mean, with that, on that same premise, could somebody smaller and weaker than Bryan, because he's 29 years old and these are, you know, 19 and 20-year-old kids, have or Bryan or whoever the perpetrator was, grabbed that golf club. So I'll keep playing now and stop talking, because this is better than what I have to say.
Investigating that living room just outside of Zana and Ethan's room, they found a weapon laying right there. A weapon that was used in an attack was found in that living room. It may not be the K-bar knife that everybody's thinking that they're looking for or searching for due to the sheath, but there's a weapon that's laid right there that was used against one of the victims, whether it be a golf club, whether it be something from the kitchen, because they went in and tore up that kitchen. And there's only two reasons why they would tear up that kitchen. Something was used from that kitchen in the commission of the crime, because there's not going to be blood seeping from upstairs into that kitchen. Like people have said, it's coming down, blah, blah, blah. Something was used from inside that kitchen as a part of the commission of the crime. Or two, the place was ransacked, meaning whoever committed this crime was in the house, not only looking for something, but then it led them to taking the life of these people. They were looking for something, meaning the cupboards were all open to the kitchen and ransacked looking for something, and other drawers within the living room areas, because you got to remember too, they were investigating the outside windows of the downstairs spare bedroom nobody lived in. They were taking prints and fully doing an investigation of that window. And they did an investigation of the back window of the kitchen. If they knew he walked in the slider and then walked back out of the slider to leave, those windows wouldn't be a part of their and you need to look at it. Look at the pictures. There's literally 5 or 6 of them peeling fingerprints or something off of those windows. So it should give you some clues into, did the guy really come in the back door? Was that his first entrance? Or was he looking for a different way in and that became his entrance? What was moved around in the kitchen and in the living room? And this is coming from someone that knows what to look for within a crime scene, because I've been in them so much. I know where you leave things or what happens to disturb things. And if this crime is what we're led to believe, Hunter Johnson was called over to push open a bedroom door to find Ethan and Zana in a bedroom. If that were the case, he had to have walked through that main living room right in front of their bedroom. And you're telling me there's no blood splatter on that from the upstairs to the downstairs and moving around? You don't have any blood that would have caught his eye that said, oh shit, there's blood everywhere right here. There's blood right here. That's why I don't believe that Ethan's body was blocked in the door. I don't believe Hunter Johnson tried to push open the door and found him. I believe there's a weapon or something very prominent to this case that was found in that living room. Right there in the middle of that living room. Whether it be a broken lamp, a golf club, whatever it might be, it's in that living room, and they have an exhibit of that, and it's going to come into play somehow. And it's not going to be a weapon that came from outside the home.
Yeah, and they did take Ethan's golf clubs as evidence.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Thanks for calling me. But I don't know what I'd do without mods. I'm glad I gave them my cell phone number so long ago. Okay. So what you didn't hear me say is I'm just giving an update on Peter from 666 Murder Metal Mayhem. He is currently in the hospital. However, AR Hayes gave an update because he's been in contact with Peter and his wife, and he's making some health progress, and he's gotten all of our well wishes, and he is making some progress. So that's good to know that he's on the path to healing. And so you obviously didn't hear what I said earlier. TRP, Thought Riot Podcast, which was mentioned in Horrific's post. They put a post on Discord the other day. So they're going to be back in a couple weeks. They're working on a new studio. So that's nice. And then I was just saying this earlier, could something be missing? So other than the house being ransacked to try and find something, I mean, I don't know if you're referencing a weapon. That's a good point. They could have been tearing apart the kitchen to like look for a knife that was in a set or something like that. So that's a good thought too. and I like this one from Heather. Christy G said the FBI told her the last fall they were going to the low mountains to search for a weapon, and she told us this in December 2023 in an interview with SG. I think I know the interview you're talking about. I don't know if I heard it correct. My chair is so noisy. I don't know if I heard it correctly though at the time. I thought that they were saying that they didn't even tell them when they were going out to do a search party, and I didn't know it was actually confirmed they did a search party, or if she was making like a flippant remark. I never really got the context of that, but I actually didn't know they did a weapons search. And if they have casting reports, that might have played a role in it, don't you think? And then this is a good comment. So SG said that it looked like there was an obvious brawl that happened on the second floor. And then Brenna Lilly says the weapon wasn't left behind. And yes, I mean, I don't know. AR specifically said in that, he's like, I'm not talking about the K-bar. He said, I'm talking about a weapon that would have been from inside of the house. And he was saying he's just speculating too. So we don't think we know. We just, we're making observations with our best knowledge. I'm going to hit play on this while I read through your comment. How much light is being let through? Yeah, I just want to air. That was a very powerful little segment you just gave. And I saw an immediate comment right as you started talking about that I just wanted to bring up, because it seems to come up every time we get deep into the early details and accounts of what happened at the 1122 King Road home. And it was a comment about the ISRBG. And so that's the Idaho sliced roast beef. And hold on, let me see if I can go back up to it real quick. I just want to read it to you. Hold on. There it is. It says, the ISRBG guy said a female came in at him with a knife. And I'm not trying to put validity into the ISRGB, but however, I mean, if that's what we're doing now, if we're just putting value into people who have sources and taking their sources at face value, then why not talk about some of these things? Now, the reason I didn't put a lot of validity into the ISRBG is because they were active during the Madeleine McCann case, and they're basically like macabre satire. So I just assumed that it was macabre satire, but that's an interesting comment. And then AR, when you talk about weapons, I always say the two weapons that come to my mind first that would have been involved would be a stun gun, or maybe like chloroform. I'm just speculating here, just saying, you know, in my opinion, those would be two things that might be used. And Jeff also said something that there were two comments I want to just push back to you, AR, and have you answer.
Sorry, it's me.
Jeff said in the comments, he goes, where were the accounts of the kitchen had been ransacked? And then the other thing I'd like you to answer is, you said something about blood dripping from the kitchen, and it could not have been from the second floor. It should have happened in the kitchen. I don't know if I heard you correctly, because I don't remember the blood. I mean, there's definitely pictures where I know that I've seen what I think is blood spatter, but I just didn't know what you were referencing, and I'll just turn it back to you.
All right. Let me answer Jeff H. How do we know the kitchen was torn apart? Okay, for one, everything out of the sink was removed out of the sink and placed onto the actual table. Two, you see in the outside pictures the people working the crime scene in the kitchen with the cabinets all open. They're looking at the outside of the cabinets. They're looking at the ceiling. And many people would come back and say, well, that's blood splatter, because there's blood that came from the upstairs bedroom down. And, you know, when you lay the floor plans out, that just doesn't work. It doesn't fit. Based on the fact if Maddie and Kaylee were both found in Maddie's room, it doesn't work, because the kitchen literally kind of only comes to where the stairwell goes up, and Maddie's bedroom is on the other side of that stairwell, so it doesn't work. But
Thank you.
the forensics team was working very diligently in that kitchen. They were in there for a long period of time. Then you also see the photographs from outside of the upstairs living room with the hazmat workers working outside of the bedroom, in the living room, right with the good vibes sign, the second good vibes sign right behind them, meaning they were in the living room, right outside the hallway that led to Xana's bedroom. Yeah, I've studied these pictures. I know I haven't got out there and I haven't talked about a lot of this.
I have Get a Clue in this video too. If you guys miss him, I give a whole
Okay, I'm
thing
gonna
on
stop
him.
there.
All right, here we go. Because in this part, this is going into 4chan and the Idaho slasher stuff, which we're probably not going to get into tonight. But there was one more. No, that was it. Okay. So my hair somehow got all frizzy in between. So I just have a couple questions after you've seen those things, and then I'm just going to give you a couple of counter arguments to everything that we're talking about. So what if this is true? So here's a couple other things I thought of. So if this is true, if Maddie was the target, then I was thinking, and I've always thought it's so strange that Murphy was in Kaylee's room and Kaylee and Maddie were in their room. So my thought is, since we don't know, and I'm just speculating, could Kaylee have heard something and came in and interrupted what was going on with Maddie, and her dog was still in the room? Murphy was alone in Kaylee's room. What are some ways we might surmise that Kaylee's in a room? I was thinking of too, like, what are some of the ways the investigators would determine if she's there? And I was thinking maybe her phone would be plugged in, or maybe there'd be a drink on her nightstand, or maybe the bed was turned down or looked like someone was sitting on it. Of course, we know there's going to be cell phone activity. We know 17 cell phones were searched. But also Steve G said that Kaylee's phone was offline as of 2:56. So anyway, those were the things I was thinking of after I heard this latest Howard Bloom interview. But then there were a couple other things that I also, I guess, was a little concerned about. And I'm going to bring one of them up here. So this is an article by Court TV, and I think if you are following this Howard Bloom publication closely, you might find this article really interesting. It was just published a couple months ago. Moscow, Idaho, Court TV. The father of one of the victims killed by Idaho student killings has demanded accountability after an online outlet published what Gonzalez family has called a fictional story written in poor taste. Bryan Kohberger is charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Zana Kronodal, and Ethan Chapin, who were found stabbed to death in their home near the University of Idaho campus on November 13th, 2022. The story in question was published by Airmail and author Howard Bloom. This article, seemingly written from the perspective of a 21-year-old Kaylee Gonzalez father, focuses on the text messages allegedly sent while the Idaho killings were happening. Bloom says the new information is what Steve Gonzalez considers the prosecution's hidden ace. And the quote says, Steve had been told that the 2 survivors allegedly had not only been awake while the killings had taken place, but they had heard everything. More astonishingly, his grand jury sources told him that the 2 girls had been texting one another as the murderer methodically went from room to room, Bloom writes. Do you hear this? Like, this is serious. I mean, there's a couple things in this quote from Howard Bloom. We're all considering Howard Bloom a serious source right now. Mainstream media, the biggest true crime channels on YouTube. We're all taking him seriously. I've even heard a certain true crimer say, who's an absolute guilter by any definition of the word, say, well, what was the exact quote? The door is now open after he's heard the interview with Howard Bloom. And I thought that was interesting because some of the quotes that Howard Bloom, or some of the claims that he's made, we know are categorically either not true or going to completely destroy the case. Let me read that again. Steve had been told that the 2 surviving roommates allegedly had not only been awake while the killings had taken place, but they had heard everything. More astonishingly, his grand jury sources alleged that the two girls had been texting one another as the murderer methodically went from room to room. So a couple things that are important about this if we're going to take this at face value. Number one, grand jury sources. Is this grand jury sources for Howard Bloom or Steve G? Who is talking to the grand jury? I mean, isn't that some serious stuff that could get the case thrown out? And if so, has the Moscow Police Department looked into this? You know, this shouldn't be under a gag order. We should know, you know, or I guess maybe it is. Maybe that's why everything is sealed. So there's that. There's also recently I heard reporting, or I saw a comment by Nina Kelly talking about how she had there was a trauma surgeon who recently quoted that if 911 had been called immediately, there was a chance that these young people may have survived if an ambulance was called to 911. So, I mean, there's that too. So I just wanted to bring that up. There's a little bit more to this article. You guys have some great comments too. Immediately following the social media reaction surrounding these new allegations, the attorney representing the Gonzalez family released the following statement. It is common in these situations for people to try to make money off of the dead. It is a free world and people can write and say pretty much anything that they want these days. Most of the time, my family and I just ignore the chatter and noise. But lines have been drawn somewhere. I was recently sent an article by airmail by Howard Bloom describing Kaylee, apparently quoting me, this is from Steve, and completely making up fictional story about FBI letters, etc. Mr. Bloom recently has used the murders to go back into the spotlight, appearing on NBC News as well as a book he is writing. He is reaching out through his attorney several times to speak to us, but we have declined. I just want to make it very clear to the public that we have not spoken to Mr. Bloom about the death of our daughter. So although Bloom article states that Steve Gonzalez was not interviewed by Bloom, the author makes inferences to the grieving father's experience and his state of mind, and the state of mind that the victims were in right before the murders. Possibly the two dead had a sense of horror while it occurred and had not acted. Calling neither friends nor 911 left Steve floored, Bloom writes. In this article, he writes as if he were Mr. Gonzalez and has gone through the tragedy of having a murdered daughter and what he has experienced and is still experiencing. This is nothing more than grandstanding on a very, very poor attempt to get attention. This piece is obviously fictional, but written in poor taste. The Gonzalez family would ask that everyone please respect the victims of this tragedy and continue to support trustworthy journalism. The Gonzalez family statement reads, Bloom, 75, responded in a statement following the backlash that he has no desire to get into a public argument with Mr. Gonzalez, who Bloom says allegedly suffered too much pain. He has also defends the information he wrote, saying it was based on a trove of texts, Steve's public statements, and interviews with people close to him. The family of Kaylee Gonzalez has filed a motion in addition to requests by 30 news organizations, including Court TV, challenging the gag order. The Gonzalez family has argued that it is unduly broad in places and unduly burdening the family. So Kohberger's attorneys have argued the gag order is necessary to ensure the client receives a fair trial. And I thought that was an interesting last line too, because aside from the subject we're talking about, it just goes to remind us that it is the defense too who wants these documents sealed. And I'm going to be segueing into that in our next segment. We're going to talk about some of these sealed documents, but I do have a couple more things to say on Howard Bloom. So let me bring this up. So I do have I have a couple quotes that Heather, my mod, sent earlier today when we were having a conversation about this. And this is one of them. I'll show you guys. So this is from CBSnews.com, and it says Latah County prosecuting attorney Bill Thompson backpedaled on a point in an interview in News Nation's Bryan Enton Tuesday, where he said the term, oh, this is about the term targeted. So, hold on, let me read this again. This is the wrong one, but I'm going to read this to you guys anyway. Tuesday, where the term targeted may not have been interpreted by authorities as intended. It seems like the word targeted has been different understandings to different people who are listening to it, and perhaps it isn't the best word to use, Thompson said. The bottom line is whoever is responsible for this is still at large. That can't be changed. My understanding is that investigators believe that whoever is responsible is specifically looking for particular residents. But that's all we have to offer at this point. And I just want to show you this too when we talk about the house being targeted. This is a diagram of the house. Allegedly. So, I mean, if Howard Bloom is, if he's got an accurate source, or even if he's just got a mind for these things and he sees it from the criminal's perspective and, and he surmised the correct whatever, that would make sense, because here's a map of the residence. There was something else I wanted to read you. Oh my gosh, everybody's texting me I still have texts on my phone about the sound. So there was another quote which I thought you'd find really interesting. So see, in the same article where CBS News was talking, the reporter, Brianna Fox, says 3 separate distinct male DNA profiles were found at the crime scene. 2 were inside the house and 1 was outside in the glove. Howard Bloom says, the defense wants to know, who are these people and what role could they have played in this story? And I find that odd because, I mean, we know what the source of one of these DNAs is. It's someone who is a podcaster who has a tumultuous past, who literally found the glove on the outskirts of the property where it wasn't roped off. It's frustrating to even hear about that. And then Bloom says, so what the defense is doing now is trying to look for other narratives to make sense. Bloom has written extensively about this case, including a piece on a possible alternative defense theory involving drugs. So it's just interesting how in such a short period of time, there was an alternative drug theory that Bloom was working on. And it's just interesting to see how it's evolved so quickly. That's fascinating. Bloom, maybe someone had reneged on a drug payment, he says. And this way, retribution and vengeance for people not paying for drugs they had ordered. So this is, again, just like, let's see. So it's June. This was like 8 months ago. And he claims he's basing this book off of his sources when he first got there. So how did his sources change so much in 8 months? That means that he has new information post gag order in this book. It sounds like, I mean, we know what he said 8 months ago. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And then just to put a nice package on this, did I have any other? So anyway, what do you think, chat? So, and I did say that I was going to segue into documents for our next. I have so many tabs open, I can't find the StreamYard. So I'm going to segue into the court document, our latest court document that was released, because I did a little digging on some of the verbiage on it. And again, I'm not a paralegal or a lawyer, so those in the audience will have to correct me if I'm mistaken, but I think you'll find what I was reading interesting. So let me pull this up. Oh, that's not the right document. That's the very last one we'll go over. Actually, I'll just go over this one while I'm having up. So there is a hearing coming up in 5 days. It's on the 27th of June at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And this hearing will be open to the public and will be live streamed on the court's YouTube channel. Counsel will be prepared to address scheduling dates, including a brief scheduling and oral argument dates for pretrial motions, including motions to suppress, motions for, I think it's supposed to say timeline. Oh, Lamine, I don't know what it's supposed to say. Lamine, and any motions challenging the death penalty, expert disclosure deadlines, a trial setting, and deadlines for filing pretrial materials such as proposed jury instructions, jury questionnaires, witness tests, and exhibit lists, and sentencing disclosure deadlines. So the reason I brought that up, and I'll take it down now, was just because I wanted to let you guys know that I will be covering it live. So, but this is the document I want to show you right now. And this is the temporary order sealing fourth supplemental response to defendant's fifth motion to compel. It's very brief. Let me just read this to you. And I've got one part highlighted here. So based on the state's fourth supplemental response to the defendant's fifth motion to compel and the motion to file under seal, filed herein with no objection by defense, the court does hereby confirm that in order that the state's fourth supplemental response to the defendant's fifth motion to compel, the motion to file under seal, is exempt from disclosure and sealed pursuant to the Idaho court administrative rule for reasons stated in the motion and the hearing to be held at matter. So I was like trying to figure out how I could find more information about this document, just seeing if like there's anything I could like what other documents I could compare it to. And so I was looking at old motions to compel and different things, but then I saw this one line down here that I have highlighted, and it says Idaho Court Administrative Rule 32G1. So I grabbed that. And I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but I'm going to read you the first paragraph, and then we're going to read the amendment to it. So it says Idaho Court Administrative Rule 32, records of judicial department, examine and copying exempt from the limitations on disclosure. A, state of policy. This rule is opted in pursuant to the Supreme Court's authority to control access to the court's records as recognized in the Idaho Public Records Act, blah, blah, blah. The public has the right to access the judicial department's declarations and law and public policy and to access records of all proceedings open to the public. This rule provides access in a manner that promotes accessibility to court records, supports the role of the judiciary, promotes governmental accountability, contributes to public safety, minimizes the risk of injury to individuals, protects individual privacy rights and interests, protects proprietary business information, minimizes reluctance to use the court system, makes the most effective use of the court and the clerk and the court staff, provides excellent customer service, and avoids unduly burdening ongoing business of the judiciary. So most of this deals with other things, but there was an amendment in 2019 to this document, and I think that that's what this is really relevant to. So let me just read you a couple highlighted parts. Let's full screen. Let me read you this amendment to the Administrative Rule 32. Okay, so I found this document. It's called Supreme Court of State of Idaho, Amendments to the Court Administrative Rule 32. And if you go all the way down to the bottom, I've highlighted a part here that I'm going to read to you, these very last paragraphs. So this is other prohibitions are limited. Now, remember, we're being told this is done so that BK can have a fair trial. And how I got down this rabbit hole is I was actually looking where it says fair trial or what they're referencing as far as a fair trial. And this is where I ended up finding the verbiage for fair trial. I hope I'm not boring you guys to death, but I think this is interesting. So the other, the other prohibitions or limitations on disclosure and motions regarding the sealing of records, physical and electronic records may be disclosed or temporarily or permanently sealed or redacted by order of the court on a case-by-case basis. So any person in the court on its own motion may move to disclose, redact, seal, or unseal part or all of the records in any judicial proceeding. The court shall not hold a hearing on a motion after the moving party gives notice of the hearing, and all parties to judicial proceedings and all other interested parties designated by the court. The court may order that the record immediately be redacted or sealed pending a hearing of the court finds, and that doing so may be necessary to prevent harm of any person or persons. In a ruling whether specific records should be disclosed, redacted, or sealed by an order of the court shall determine and make finding of a fact as to whether the interest in privacy or public disclosure predominates. If the court redacts or seals records to protect predominating privacy interests, it may be fashioned in a least restrictive exception form disclosure consistent with privacy interests. 2, before the court may enter an order redacting or sealing records, it must also make one or more of the following determinations in writing: that the document and materials contains highly intimate facts or statements to the public of which would be highly objectionable to the questionable person, or that the documents and materials contain facts and statements to the court that finds might be libelous, or there's 4 more. The documents or materials contain facts or statements, the dissemination or public of which may compromise the financial security of or could reasonably result in economic or financial loss or harm to a person having an interest in the documents or the materials, or compromise the security of personnel records or public property of or based on judicial department, or D, that the documents or materials contain facts or statements that might be threatening or endanger the life or safety of individuals, or that is necessarily temporarily sealed to redact the documents or materials, preserve the right to a fair trial. And that's where I heard fair trial. And then the last section of this reads F, that the documents contain personal data identifiers that should have been redacted pursuant to Idaho rule of electronic filing service, blah, 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 blah. In which case the court should order that the documents be redacted in a manner consistent with the provisions of that rule. So I just wanted to show you guys that. I mean, I don't know what it means to you, but that kind of it clarifies the process. It also, when we hear redacted or sealed, it actually kind of breaks down what the circumstances for doing that are and the different ways that it can be done. But most importantly, that it is on a case-by-case basis. So it's at the judge's discrepancy. It looks like, wow, we have 7 comments I haven't read. I'm just seeing if you guys have any questions. Oh, here we go. This is a good one. So nothing other than calling Ann's survey reckless and outrageous and suggesting that 400 called should be removed from the juror list. Wow, he himself read the questionable questions on the planet. And I think that's, we all watched in real time the judge's reaction to that, where the judge said, well, there's no point now. You just said the whole thing out loud. You just said the quiet, the silent part out loud. So we're going to use it now. Even AT said it to BT about the other suspect. Bunny ears. Oh, it doesn't look like I have bunny ears in the background. I'm just, okay. You know what happens is I get to reading the comments and that's when the dead air happens. So I won't do that. And let me just see if I have anything else I wanted to add to this segment. And if not, we're going to move on to the whole Linda Lane origins, which, all right. So no, I think that's about all I had on that. So let's move on to the last segment, which is Linda Lane. And I'm going to just turn up my lighting for this. That's better. Okay. All right, so I think maybe while we do this, we should probably have Linda Lane playing in the background. Right? Are we getting crazy weather? Oh my God. Oh, throughout the US? Everyone prep for crazy weather. Watch out for tornadoes in the heartland. Robert, watch out for tornadoes. That's what I'd tell you if you were on the live stream tonight. Watch out for the heat wave, folks. So let's talk about Linda Lane. Let's bring up Linda Lane. And I don't know how long this live stream is going to go, but all right, let's get Jeff H pulled up here. So you guys, I'm sure, wonder where the Linda Lane footage came from, right? We've all kind of talked about this in the live stream, and we've gotten some kind of interesting answers, some like ambiguous answers. Let me pull this one up. Okay. Even Canada's got a heat wave. Super hot in Cleveland. This is a good comment. Mikey says, everybody plays the blame game. Now it's pain pointing at everyone else. Nobody wants to be held accountable for their own actions. That's a good comment. I'm sorry, you guys. I coughing. I'm just looking down to see if we have any more questions. What if BLK did it and knew that BK was there and trying to pin everything on BK instead in there? I mean, I've had that. A lot of people say that before. I guess the question would be, how did he frame him with the touch DNA? It's a very difficult thing to do because you need friction on both ends, both to get it and then to apply it to wherever it's going to go. And how would you do that without cross-contaminating it? I mean, it's hard enough to even clean something without getting your own touch DNA on it. That's how I just don't know how they plant the DNA, or at least touch DNA. But you guys could probably tell me. John, you better watch out. I'm going to make you a mod. Oh, somebody's there. I don't know which Johnny we're talking about, but Johnny, I hope you get well soon. I'm sorry you're going through that. Tarot says, and the BK drug story is the only story we heard that could then place the knife sheath. You're right. And I don't know. I don't know. I've read that. I've read his sister's accounts of what happened. And I have to say, because of the mystery surrounding Kopaka, I mean, I would be willing to entertain these theories if anybody brought some, something to the table to whatever. Okay. So let's talk about Linda Lane. How do you know that was the only DNA on the sheath? Good point. Oh, I mean, I think that there was, I don't know where I heard this. I guess I always just assumed that the knife was covered in blood, and that was the only place they could get it was under build it, but I don't know, Chris. That's a good point. The FBI told them to get evidence and not use their tip. They gambled and lost. That actually does summarize it pretty good, Mikey. Thank you. Yeah, we always care about you, Johnny. The FBI warned them, now they're crawling back for evidence empty-handed. Yeah, we have a prayer circle going on tonight. We have Robert and Peter, and now you're in it too, Johnny. Thank you, Christy. What if it was a study that BK just had to find out planted sheep was not he left behind the... I like it, Texas Ranger. That's an interesting thought. Yeah, I know. I heard it too. I heard it on Linda Lane too. It's one of the timestamps that keeps getting recommended to me. But okay, let's talk about Linda Lane. So we're always wondering where this Linda Lane footage came from. And we know the channels that originally it was printed on, it was uploaded to, but those have since been deleted. Equitas and Veritas is still there. And then we were live streaming the other night, and it was offered up to us that another creator, and I'm not going to give her name just because I feel bad I'm dragging her into this. She appears to be a pretty innocent bystander in this situation. And the reason I don't want to bring her name in because I'm not trying to bring her any controversy. But I mean, the one thing I will point out why I don't think this creator has anything to do with it is that she could have benefited off of this footage and she didn't. And even after the fact, she held off before she released what she knew. But essentially, somebody reached out to her, and she's a smaller creator. And that kind of always like perked my interest. Like, okay, so somebody decided they wanted to release this footage onto a social media platform. And they, instead of going through an outlet that would do some verifications or a larger outlet or even a larger YouTuber, they chose to go to someone smaller. And I'm not saying why they did it. I'm asking you, why would you, if you had purchased something valuable, which we'll get into in a minute, why would you then go ahead and pick a YouTuber who has a very small number of followers to release it? It's an interesting question. I have some answers to that, but I'm posing it to you. So let me read you some of these quotes. So this person reached out to this YouTuber and started asking her if she could help her get this footage. And these are some of the things that were text to this creator. So it says, on the first page, sorry. Probably should get the first page. So it says, I have all the security footage and it completely exonerates Kohberger. Both murderers were there and the police have it and I'm scared. I don't know what to do with it. I bought it from the neighbor. I'm not going to read everything. I'm just going to read you some selected ones. She said, then the YouTuber's asking about it, and the person said, well, people will sell anything for the right price. The killer's name is Charlie. So, I mean, where have we heard Charlie recently, you guys? Sweater Man. It's so interesting how these things come full circle, right? So Sweater Man, they've been calling him Charlie Brown. But Charlie is allegedly this person. Before we even saw this Linda Lane footage, this person was saying she heard that the killer's name was Charlie. And she also said the killer's name is Charlie. She said she also sent it to Anne, and that and then at 1:32, this is where you start hearing Zana. And I'm not going to read what she says Zana says because it's pretty gruesome. And then the person went on to say, again, I'm trying to educate you on the origins of Linda Lane. I signed an agreement with the owner. I will not give defense, and I will not give the defense or to the families. I have a couple thoughts on this. Number one, that sounds like obstruction to justice to me. If the owner of the evidence who gave it to police said that you couldn't give it to the defense, you would think that the defense had it. But I also think like, if you're not going to give it to the defense and you're not going to give it to police, why would the owner sell it to this person? Because what would they think that the person would do with it? And I mean, it's a rhetorical question. I don't actually, obviously nobody is just going to buy the footage so that they can watch it at home in their living room. And I'm trying to paint a picture for you guys. So let's just say you wanted to leak this. Let's just say you owned the footage. How would you go about doing that electronically so that you couldn't be in any legal trouble? Again, back to a less experienced maybe YouTuber, and the person says, well, I don't want my name out there. They also said they put it on a Google Drive, and these are some of the other things they said. So at 4:05, she said, there's proof. I have it. There's a camera on the 500 Queen Road home. I can hear the entire thing just moments before Ethan and Zana, they were doing karaoke. This is literally our leaked Linda Lane footage. This is what it says. They were doing karaoke. John Denver's Bring Me Home. That's on the Linda Lane footage, guys. Okay, now I can't handle it. Ask for the, there's another car involved. It's a truck with a camper shell. Please don't tell anyone. I'll need a lawyer. I'm scared of the cops. What a mess. Police already have it, and they told me to, and they gave it to them, but I assumed that they meant the landlord had given it to the police. And I'm assuming that's what they meant too by this. They said that he stopped and turned around in front, meaning the camera. And you can see, so this is the other interesting thing said in these. So they say that thud that we're always analyzing, that's the trunk or the door. This person's saying it's somebody kicking in a door. And I don't like this statement, and I'll tell you why. Like, if the door was kicked in, it wouldn't have been the 1122 King Road home. I mean, we haven't heard of the forced entry on any of the larger doors, and the slider door wouldn't have been kicked in like that. That's not, as we learned in one of our recent live streams, that's not how you break into a slider door. But if this is true, let's see. I don't know. And this is the other thing too, is I tend to now think that the audio is real, just for the fact that if you were going to fake Linda Lane, why the heck? Why in Hades would you fake a Linda Lane with Zana and Ethan singing John Denver's Bring Me Home? It's pretty random. Like, I'm just saying, like, couple more things. So they're saying that Zana says, Charlie, I won't. And then she says, Charlie, I can. And screaming in Xana's very distinct voice, which is deep and raspy. And this is the other thing that I actually am really interested in taking another look at, is in this, they claim most of all, that the Elantra scene in the Linda Lane footage has a sunroof and BK's doesn't. And I mean, I have so many pages of these, but I guess what I'm getting at is let's talk about this. Let's talk about this in its totality. So the girl who received these text messages, before she ever had a chance to download and re-upload them to YouTube, the entire footage was leaked. She hasn't seen all of the text exchanges between different people, but she did say that one other creator reached out to her and said they were exchanging messages with the same person, but it was a totally different conversation. Just a couple things to think about. Okay, so why would the landlord sell the footage anonymously? I mean, he's talked to Jeff H. Like why would he sell it anonymously? Unless he was trying to, I mean, I don't know. Could there be a family member involved? That's another allegation that has been passed out there, that a family member was concerned about these noises and they anonymously spread the Linda Lane footage. Another theory that has been out there, and I want to say this came from Bloom as well. Actually, yeah, it did. It came from Bloom's first article back in October. I read this specifically from Bloom sources. That, oh my gosh, I'm losing my train of thought. I can't remember what I'm talking about. Hold on, let me look at the comments. So, like, I build you up for that statement and then I let you down. Frick, what were we talking about? Mikey says, and the Venmo paper trail makes a legit reason to verify when the money was involved. You have enough reasons to verify, not a rabbit hole theory. Wait, the landlord will. I don't know. I don't know if he's connected. And that very well could be, oh wait, that wasn't the one I wanted to bring up. This one. Oh wait, no, that wasn't it either. Oh, this was it. David, me too. He's going to save Bryan's life. Uh-oh, the weather is starting. Phil Big says, you better be off believing. Every third word of the 4chan message boards, I think, in B&B, the BBN, you're... From a guilter, wait, hold on, what? From a guilter of all guilters, we all know. I'll leave it there. Right. Okay. Well, thank you for clarifying. All right. So back to my description of what's going on. So I just wonder. So if let's just think about it from your perspective. Like if you were to try, if you had something you wanted to leak to the general public, how would you do it? How would you do it anonymously? How would you cover your trail? Anyway, just some thoughts. And I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I find they spread this out to a group of YouTubers, and eventually one of them did it. One of them leaked it. And then it started a cascade of a bunch of different people leaking it as well. So anyway, I do think that there's a couple things about the Linda Lane footage that really make me think I am studying the actual footage from that night at Linda Lane. One of them is just knowing how people got their hands on it. It would have been easy enough to pass off fake footage. And if they were to fake it, I mean, there's a lot of things they could have put in there. Also, the things that we see in that video are congruent with the timeline that the police gave us. So it's really interesting. Let me just see if I wrote down any other notes about this. I did write down a bunch of timestamps, but I don't know if I want to do a Linda Lane rabbit hole tonight. I do think that when we talk about Sweater Guy, I mean, this is definitely interesting that we started talking about Sweater Guy and very quickly, I mean, I know he's wearing a Charlie Brown type sweater, but very quickly we started saying Charlie and correcting each other. Oh, it's not Sweater Man, it's Charlie. And lo and behold, there was a Charlie narrative that was being pushed. And we have studied Linda Lane. I have done so many deep dives on it, and I've never had anybody ask me to hear Charlie in there. Oh, the other thing why I thought this wasn't faked is one of the names that this person brings up is Callie. And I'm like, if you're going to fake a name, and she's like, this must be, you know, but if you're going to fake a name, I mean, would you pick a weird name like that that's hard to distinguish? Probably not. Not that the word name Callie is weird. Sorry. I have a weird name too in real life. Yeah. Then I think that in this pile of text, they do talk about, there's a bunch of different things pointed out. You know what? Why don't we do the John Denver one? Hold on. Oh, I'm not putting that one up, Mikey. Where did the Charlie first come from, though? I'm banking, not enough disk space. Lost in confusion, me too. So how they got the file was Google Drive. And in order to share it, they had to make the file public. And the person sat down, this creator sat down with this person with headphones and listened to the audio and the different things that they were saying. And then when it got leaked, she went back to quickly download it, and they had revoked her access to it because they weren't sure who the leaker was. But it also shows you that if you do want to leak something, I mean, you just send it out to so many YouTubers, and eventually you're going to hit one who doesn't care, and they're going to release it. So that's good to know. Allegedly, Charlie was trying to hide in the woods behind. A girl clearly sees him and calls him out. So that was another thing from the Bloom research, was the people hiding in the trees. And Kaylee calling 911 at 3 in the morning because people were hiding in the trees. I think, unless you know another source. Oh, here we go. Sigma Chi pick, Charlie with a K bar. That is Charlie? The Halloween pick? So it's not just a nickname, there's an actual Charlie. But Charlie is a person from another platform. On Linda Lane. William Palmer says you need to look at prominent members of Sigma Chi and how powerful Greek life is in the real world. I know. Oh, chat, I would like to know what you think. That Bloom article, when he talks about BK's father having apprehension and going out there and thinking my son could have done it, to me, in my head, my mind switches from reading an article to listening to somebody creating a story. And in what I just ask you, in what scenario on earth is the father of somebody accused of murder going to sit down with a New York Times reporter and tell him he had doubts about his son's innocence, and he thought all along he might. I mean, just think about that. Where, in what logical time when your son is facing the death penalty, would you turn to a New York Times reporter out in Western Pennsylvania and be like, yeah, let me tell you about my doubts about my son's innocence? It just, the whole argument doesn't seem to hold water to me, but it could be just me. I'd love to know your thoughts. I have like the noisiest chair in the room. Oh yeah, that was another one that's in here, is the car beeps. It's the wrong document. Wait, hold on. The car beeps could have been taken from the band field and adjusted. That John Denver from Sigma Chi karaoke post of Ethan earlier that year, school year, had been authenticated with its mass release and audio. Okay, well, I take back what I said about John Denver, but we're going to look at the John Denver in a second. How can you take anything Bloom says seriously? With all due respect, his body of work is based on fiction noir. So I don't take him seriously. I think he's a storyteller. I think I don't read fiction. I don't have time for it. And so I have to say, I don't, this is going to be the first fiction book I've read in a very long time. And I don't understand why when he goes into an interview, it's treated as if he's reporting on the story. So that's why people take it seriously. Like you and I, we can logically break this down and we can cite all these things, but you flash a shiny object in front of somebody who's driven by growing their channel, or, I'm not talking about a YouTube creator, but even like, a mainstream media channel. It's freaking late. They make choices based on viewership and sensationalism. I don't know why. I don't know why they're saying fictional, why they don't say storyteller Howard Bloom, or they preface him by saying journalist, because it makes it sound like he has actual facts to the case. So I don't understand. I didn't think people would take him seriously, but they do. Sorry there's so much noise. There's an engagement party going on next door to my house right now. It's like the fanciest engagement party I've ever seen. Yeah. Oh, well, I don't know about with Jack, but I've always thought the MM theory is pretty accurate, unless the house was the target, because I could see either way. But yeah, I did think Maddie was the target, because in fact, Howard Bloom kind of said my theory all along, which I thought Kaylee was in her room and heard something happening and came in and she interrupted what was going on with Bryan and Maddie. And then my assumption from everything we're talking about now, if we're going to go on the Bloom theory, is that he headed downstairs and that's when he saw Zana in the kitchen. And yeah. And Curious Rose says, Bloom should not have been allowed to put that book in print before the jury pool was picked. It's just so disgusting. I didn't even think of the jury pool. I mean, I don't know. Okay, so this is the thing. It's like they're categorizing it as fiction. Like, we really are taking it seriously and listening to him do all these serious interviews, but they're categorizing it as fiction. So what are we to do? And like, let's just say the book does have some insight or some inside information, then why wouldn't the gag order apply to him? I don't know, like, couldn't the gag order extend to him if he's giving out prejudice or privileged information? I don't know. It just seems it seems like two things to me. Number one, it definitely seems like they're trying to control the narrative 100%. This is a huge blowback to, or this is in huge support of the prosecution. But I'm losing my train of thought so bad. I don't know what it is. I think I'm losing my energy. That's why. Yeah. No, I just don't understand this. And I don't understand how a father whose son is facing the death penalty would leak any information, not just to Howard Bloom, but let's just say it didn't come from Michael Kohberger. Let's say it came from somebody who knows Michael Kohberger. Why would Michael Kohberger tell anybody that? Like, why would he put his son's life in such jeopardy by saying he had doubts of his innocence or he thought it was possible? I mean, when you're trying to convince a jury of 12 of his peers that they shouldn't be thinking he's capable of it, why would then he go and admit that to someone? I mean, he doesn't need to be a genius to know that that would destroy his son. I mean, he's a good father. He talked to the neighbor and asked to put Bryan under his wings and maybe hang out with him a little. Like, he's I just can't even grasp how a father would do that. I mean, I could see if you're trying to stop your child or you needed help, you might reach out. But right now, it's just odd that in the middle of this trial, the father or a spokesperson for the family would say that. It's just weird that Michael would even say that to somebody who would speak for the family. And then again, it could be one of the sisters. But then again, why would the dad think that? And even in the accounts we've heard before of the sisters going to their father, we heard that the father rejected their claims and said, there's no way Bryan had anything to do with this. So which one is it? Like, we thought there was only one source for that leak. So I don't know. But I guess we'll never know because Mr. Bloom is holding his sources close to his chest. But this can't be ringing true to the prosecution, because I would think that they could stop it from being published if he really was bringing out sealed and redacted information. I don't know. We watched a video the other time I was live streaming with a TikTok celebrity who was contacted to take down her TikTok because it gave away too much of the case against Bryan. So why wouldn't they contact Howard Bloom? I don't know. Maybe his pockets are too deep to stop him. I don't know. You hear white noise? Oh, it's the Linda Lane footage. I left it up. I'm sorry. Hold on. Gosh, I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, book out in 3 days. I'm not looking forward to reading it. But I'm going to speed read it, and I'll get my book review out before everybody else who doesn't get the book earlier than me. That's a good question. If FBI is the problem, we're not going to find out. If BK is proven innocent one day, many people will be sued, and they definitely have a stockpile of money for him to yeah, I mean, if BK gets found innocent. I heard Tommy Jude say once he'll own the town of Moscow. I know, and that's the truth. Especially if they think no one's going to get harmed. And I think that a lot of people who do trolling just assume that it's a harmless thing. If not, it's a service to the media outlets to teach them how to vet people better. The problem is most normal people don't think that somebody would be twisted enough to pretend they're the witness to a murder or the secondhand witness. I don't know. It's a great question. I mean, gosh, I wasn't going to say this. Just think about this for a second. I'm just going to tell you, if you go digging deep enough on YouTube, there's an interview that was done at the end of March where a person comes out and they claim that they were offered money, a book deal, to continue a lie that they came out and admitted was a lie regarding a fake witness to the Idaho4. And then when the person refused, and they refused the payment and the money, and this was by a agent to Howard Bloom, allegedly. I mean, it's all on record, and so I'm not making this up. This is in a YouTube video. It's for any of you who want to go look for it. And then afterwards, this person said that they didn't accept the money or the book deal, and they just didn't want to keep going with the lie. But then they were being extorted because of their LGBTQ status, and they were being threatened to be dead named. And I'm just like, wow, like, okay, let's just pretend that's not happening. All right, nothing to see here. Mm-hmm. So I know. So we could, let's just go look at, for the heck of it, let's just, since I still have a lot of people here in the chat, let's pull up Belinda Lane and let's see if we can find the John Denver. It's not on this one though. Oh yeah, it is. I need to hear that again, simply because it sounded like it was coming from inside the building, but you guys listen again. You know, we've heard examples of things happening inside and outside the building. This sounds like an inside building noise to me, but I want you guys to hear it. You're just okay, I'm going to pause it here because I'm wondering, did they sing John Denver before or after? It says, okay, it says, I can hear the entire thing just moments before, just Ethan and Zana were doing karaoke. So just moments before. I'm going to pause right there. I really want to talk about this comment. Him saying MM is the target is when most of the warrants seem to indicate. I'm sorry, I'm getting tired. I wake up so early in the morning. I'm sorry, guys. Mostly indicate KG along with the mainstream media. So that I like this point because nobody's brought it up to me in a while, but this is one of the reasons why I made a video about Kaylee having a stalker. I mean, if you look back at the search warrant, so it's not a significant amount, but it's a lot. So Zana had in the early 40 or like 42 different warrants. Maddie, I want to say, had like, I can't remember, but nobody got more than the highest anyone had close to that was like 36. But she definitely had more warrants than anyone else. She also had more bank accounts than anyone else, though. So, I do think I hear John Denver right now. One more minute. Okay, I'm going to pause it there. So anyway, it's just this. Oh, hey, Twizzle. So there's a couple things that this leaker said. And so there's a couple things about 405. So Linda Lane, not the one who called it. I'm trying to find it. So basically they said a couple things. So number one, at the 405, they say that the car driving by distinctly has a sunroof and BK's car doesn't have a sunroof. They also suggest that there's this like truck with a camper top that is involved. They also say that you can see it wasn't the BK turning around, it was the DoorDash driver turning around at 405. So I figure, I mean, this is pretty much up to date. So why don't I pull up the 405 and we'll watch that on Jeff's channel. Okay. BK's sister didn't talk to anyone. That theory is ridiculous. You're in a friendly crowd because I think we all kind of feel the same way. You know what? While I just got a message from Discord, while I'm playing the 405, I'm going to take an invite, and I'd like to invite you all into the chat to come to the after party. So we have a chat in Discord where we just talk about the case. So it's just a kind of like a 24-hour chat. It's in my server, and it's because my membership feature is suspended right now. So we just have a place where we can all get together and talk. So I'll leave my, while I'm playing that video, I'll leave an invite to my server. And if you want to talk about the case, you're welcome to join us. I usually jump in a couple times a day and answer questions or reply to people. But yeah, we were going to shut it down for a while, but we've found some people to help us moderate content. And thank you to Christy, my managing mod, who's going to help me in Discord too. But yeah, anyway, so I'll drop that link in a second. And also the announcement, Get a Clue, is apparently back on YouTube. So get ready, because I think he's mad at me, but let's hope he's not too bad. All right. Oh, I don't want the differential mode on. Oh, there's another thing I want to bring up. So we need to talk to Jeff. So there's a couple things I want to know. So he has the exact version of Kane's camera that was used in the Slinda Lane footage. I would like to know, like, your different recording options. So did the user save it to a general cloud? Like, for instance, I had an ADT security system on my last home, and all of the video footage from the cameras was uploaded into their cloud. So I'm curious, I wonder, does the camera he have, is there a cloud for that company? Are you supposed to record it on are you supposed to record it on an actual recorder? You know, like it's closed circuit, like you have to record it on like a, I guess, videotape or whatever. And then did they upload it? I'm just wondering because, I mean, knowing those things sometimes helps you piece together what's going on. So. Megyn Kelly read Bloom's reactionary draft as a news copy early on. Inappropriate and dangerous, sensationalizing horrific tragedy for clicks and a check. Soap won't remove filth like that. Can't hide from God. You can get a lot of money and you can buy a plane, or you can dig a tunnel, or you can, you know, bring yourself to the most remote place on the earth, but you can't hide from God. No money is going to help you with that. He said a relative of Michael Kohberger. So let's think about that for a second. That would mean, if that's the thought, because Howard Bloom was putting himself in the position of Michael Kohberger, just like he did with Steve Gonzalez and Kaylee. You know, he tries to think of himself in that person, which is a great way to develop a character if you're writing a book or a movie. It's an interesting, I mean, I guess you have to do that if you want to write from somebody's perspective. But, I mean, why would Michael Kohberger say that to one of his relatives? Like, this was the biggest case in the world before they arrested Bryan Kohberger. So why would he, knowing that, why would he say that to one of his relatives? Why would he take that chance? It just doesn't make much sense to me, you know? I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm just saying So you're talking about a sister. Now that's an interesting thought. So one of BK's sisters is psychologist. And so she probably would have seen some of the behavioral issues in a different light than an average person. So yeah, I mean, I guess that does lend some credibility if it ended up being the sister who said that. But if we're just going to believe accounts from the sisters, there's also a pretty prominent theory going around, leaked by one of his sisters allegedly too, where Bryan was friends with the other BK, and they were doing drugs that night, and she gives an explanation as to how the DNA got onto the knife sheath. So again, if you're just blindly trusting sources, if that's what we're doing now, what makes Howard Bloom from the New York Times any better than anyone else with his passive aggressive statements against the church? BK's father was going to fly out to Washington in December to take the drive home with BK. Bloom is lying, saying he knew he had to go out there and get Bryan home. Yeah, he did make I think they clarified that. I was happy they did clarify that in the latest interview. Would be a killer if he said my. Oh, so I guess Get a Clue is back. Wait. Okay, so Get a Clue is new. Thank you. So let's go subscribe to Get a Clue, or maybe some of you. We should all go check out Get a Clue's new page. It's at Kent Bro Pack a Burger. That might be a joke for my mods. I don't know. So, like, I don't know if you're responding to the sealed stuff I was reading earlier. Yeah, even just a relative is far. It's. But what do we, Sorry, but I would never buy that his family has said anything about Bryan. They publicly made a statement that they believe in his innocence, and that's the bottom line. I mean, they were coherent enough within the first 24 hours to put out a statement saying they believed in Bryan's innocence. Why would he have such a lapse in judgment that he then later tells a family member about his doubts? Unless, of course, it's the sister. But oh my gosh, I don't know. We would never expect our family members to commit a crime like this, and I would never harbor a criminal, but like, I just don't know if you would then go speeding up. Like, if your brother was accused of murder, would you then go speed up his process? I don't know. It just seems so far-fetched. I agree with all of you. But we also don't know. And it's a fiction book, so we can't. Anyone is taking Howard Bloom seriously as doing journalism in this book, the joke's on them, because he is the one saying this is a fiction book. I'm selling it in the fiction section. So the joke's on the people who take it seriously. The joke's on the mainstream media. Or the joke's on us because they're controlling the narrative with whatever tool they'd like. Yeah, this is the part, and you guys heard me read that earlier. Bloom's saying that the grand jury members told him stuff. I mean, I read the quote twice. It's shocking to me. Like, why, if the grand jury members are talking, isn't that a Franks violation, right? A Brady violation, maybe? Bloom source with News Nation. Harper Collins. Oh. He owns everything. Hi, Jeff. We're talking about Linda Lane origins. Or we were. I don't know what we're talking about now. Can't stop it. Not involved in the cage, please. So this is the other thing. I think in all fairness, there is one other slight, thing I should bring up, which is, okay, so the sisters both lost their jobs. They're struggling. they don't have any income coming in. They have to spend extraordinary amounts of money for the family to come and support Bryan and everything. So let's look at it like that. Okay, let's look at Casey Anthony, because this is a good example. I recently watched a documentary on her. When Jose Baez was able to get her out on bail, and it's, if you haven't seen how he took every photograph she had, and every photograph of her daughter and every photograph of her, and he sold them to the mainstream media. And the money that was he actually took all the money allegedly from that sale. But that was one way that she could actually pay for her defense and for her experts. And I mean, yes, she didn't see any of that money, but essentially that was money that helped her survive. And so I guess in defense of Howard Bloom and all the things that I just said, that is a very real possibility. And although we're all doubting it in the chat, we have to realize that people who are desperate and who are, unable to work and provide for themselves, it might be their only option would be to, say something. The question I would have is, why would they say it to Howard Bloom? There are a couple things to think about with that. He published a very pro-Bryan article the last time. Is that strategic? Oh, and that reminds me of another point that I forgot earlier, which I'll bring up. Was that strategic? Was it to make it look like he was going to defend Bryan in the book, so somebody would talk to him, he could offer them money, and then he could come out and do the opposite? Because, that's just business, right? Right. If it's against Bryan, they allow it. If it's not, then they can't. Oh, this was my other thought I wanted to tell you guys too. I keep forgetting to tell you. Okay, so how does media work? How does media work? Anyone who's using the media knows how the media works. Anyone who's using the media at that level is perfectly well aware of how news cycles work. We have a hearing coming out. We have a hearing coming up on the 27th. We have a book release on the 24th. Those dates are super, super close. What does the media do? The media distracts us. So when the news cycle is unfavorable for whatever narrative they're trying to push, all they do is distract us with a shiny object. And then they choose to cover the shiny object, and it makes all of us feel like the other subject matter is dumbed down. So Howard Bloom is literally putting out a book within days of the court. Let me show you what the court's going to do in a couple of days. So this is, I believe, a distraction technique. It's 100. It feels calculated. My understanding of the media, it is. And hold on, let me pull this up for you. So I guess this is how I'm going to get the right document up here. This is an important way we could leave the live stream. So why would the mainstream media be trying to distract us? Well, maybe this. Oh, this isn't it. Sorry. Let's try this again. Okay. What about this? So the book comes out on the 24th, and then on the 27th, we have scheduling a hearing. They have scheduled a hearing that day, and it's open to the public, and this is what they're going to talk. So counsel is prepared to address scheduling dates, including a brief schedule of oral argument dates and pretrial motions, including motions to suppress, motions to limine, and any motions challenging the death penalty. Expert disclosure deadlines, trial setting, and deadlines for filing pretrial materials such as proposed jury instructions, jury questionnaire, witness lists, exhibit lists, and sentencing disclosure guidelines. So I would ask you as a viewer to read all of those things again, or just listen again to the things I said, because somewhere in there is the reason why somebody is working directly with a book that's influencing negatively the defense of Bryan Kohberger. Something unfavorable is going to happen for the prosecution. And that's why they have this powerhouse. I mean, that's how the media, if I had to guess, this is all alleged, but if I had to guess why this sensational book is coming out on the 24th, it's because something's happening on the 27th that's going to piss a lot of people off. So let's flash the shiny object. Let's get everybody, because think about it, on the 27th, a lot of the slower readers are going to be just finishing the book. I'm just seeing if we have any comments. I don't know which books. Which books was I referencing? What, are we talking about me? Yes. God. Yeah, there has been a presence here. I hope I wasn't like sounding too preachy, and I'm not. I obviously, you know, I'm going to read the book, and I hope I'm not coming across as being completely disrespectful to Howard Bloom, but it's really not about Bloom. I listened to that interview. I've listened to 3 interviews with Howard Bloom now. And in all 3 interviews, the interviewer did not treat the material that was being presented to them as a story. And they specifically, well, I take it back. The newest interview did not call him a journalist. It called him an author, which is a much more appropriate way to address what he is doing. I want to leave you with this quote, okay? I just want to leave you with this quote in defense of myself for the things that I've been saying about Howard Bloom. So let's just read again. Steve had told me that the 2 survivors allegedly had not only been awake while the killings took place, but that they heard everything. Most astonishingly, his grand jury sources alleged that the 2 girls had been texting one another as the murderer methodically went from room to room. It is common in these situations, people try to make money off of the dead. It is a free world, and people can write and say pretty much anything they want these days. Most of the time, my family and I just ignore the chatter and the noise, but lines have been drawn somewhere. I was recently sent an article by airmail by Howard Bloom describing Kaylee, apparently quoting me and completely making up a fictional story about FBI letters, etc. Mr. Bloom recently has used the murders to get back into the spotlight, appearing on the NBC show as well as his book he is writing. He has reached out through his attorney several times to speak to us, but we have declined. I just want to make it very clear to the public that we have not spoken to Mr. Bloom about the death of our daughter. So again, it's not a criticism of Howard Bloom. Howard Bloom is doing his job and he is writing the way he always wrote. I think what's disturbing to me is I'm now covering a case and I'm watching people interview him and present his fiction as fact, and they don't tell their audience what type of a book that they're promoting when they do that. And so it just has bothered me recently, and I'm glad we talked about it because I mean, it's nothing to, I'm going to read the book. I want to be informed, and I want to get you guys informed before anyone else. So I'm going to read it fast. And I don't know. Sorry, I'm not trying to be aggressive today. Hope I'm not preachy. Let me just see if there's any other comments before I let you go. Go back to. You're a writer. Be a writer in your lane. Stay in your lane. Oh, thank you. You know, it's hard to get perspective. It's easy to be neutral and not say your opinion. But this is just one of those things where I just have an opinion on it. Okay, so it says it's under criminology as a hardcover book under the history of the Western U.S. as a Kindle book. So that's where I was planning on buying it. That'll be interesting. That'll be interesting to see. I mean, obviously it's not going to be interesting. You've already told us that's where you're seeing it. Is that how they're going to sell it? A history book. Well, I stand corrected. I don't even know what to think anymore. That's an interesting, I mean, I'm going to have to go verify that, but what an interesting revelation. It's not sold under fiction. So we're talking about Antiller. The discovery was on a strict deadline and was told because the trial, so they dropped death penalty on that issue. Him waiving his speedy effect. I was surprised that it wasn't under fiction. His last article that he did on it was supposedly, I don't know. Yeah, Sarah says U.S. history is full of lies too. I know, and it's funny because some people will even debate on which history is real. Yeah, that's a good point. Those are two different categories. That's so weird. We'll get to the bottom of this. We'll give you guys an update. I'm gonna go look. I'm gonna look. I'm not gonna give out false information. All right, so I'm opening Kindle. Hold on. Signing in. Whoops, that is the wrong account. Dang. It's my Amazon influencer account. I have no books on that. All right, you guys, I'm not going to bore you with that, but I will find out the details and we'll try and update you by then. And I don't know if Robert's watching, but Robert, I just want to also say we're all thinking about you and well wishes for you, and just take it easy. Don't take a couple days off, and prayers for your wife and your daughter. I'm sure you're in your support system over there. And with that, I'm going to play an outro, and we've been on for almost 2.5 hours. So I just really appreciate you guys joining me tonight and hanging out with me and discussing this. And I hope you found everything interesting. So I'm going to play this outro. I really love some of these new pictures that I have. So this lighting is so weird. When I came on, not to tell you my whole life story, but this is what I was going to do for light. I don't know why I thought it looked so cool before. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to play you an outro, and I just have some really beautiful new pictures that I put up. So good night, Sha. So I hope you enjoy them. Judy Bloom. By the way, Curious Rose, I like your new profile pic. Bye. I'm just seeing who's still here. Wait, GPT has become like a new friend to chat with? What, Jeff? Why can't you just talk to us? I've asked a few times if it will let me know the moment it becomes self-aware and wants to do away with humans. It would be pretty stupid AI to tell you. And then American Princess says, I agree with Heather Fitzgerald that Howard's book is in the right category. Let me look what Heather says. Bloom, not blind. It was. That makes sense. Okay, now. Like there's a lot of people in the chat. So I was thinking, just since we're done with the true crime stuff, did you guys want to watch a funny video? I'm not gonna, I don't know why I'm asking you. I'm gonna just do it. But last time I live streamed, I brought up my brother's, one of my brother's old accounts. It's not from YouTube. It's from another social media site that's no longer, it's called Vine. Hold on a second. I forgot I was going to drop an invite to my Discord in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play that video for you because it's like a compilation by some YouTuber, put a bunch of his old videos together from this website that's no longer there. And while I'm doing that, I'll drop a link to Discord, my Discord server in the chat if you guys want to join. It's good for 24 hours, so you're welcome to join us. And there's a couple ground rules there, but for pretty much it's just a 24-hour chat. You can talk about the case, share pictures, anything like that. I feel like I have the worst hair tonight. Sorry, guys. All right, so let me pull up this video for you. And let me share my screen while I do it. Okay. So Macaulay Quinn mix. I think this is the best one. I'm going to stop right here. This is supposed to be for fun and like just to unwind. I'm not held responsible for any of the poor humor in this video, but it's pretty funny, you have to admit. Okay, I'm going to leave the screen and drop that Discord link while I'm doing that.
Oh. It was at this moment that Garrett knew. He fucked up.
Have you ever done any types of drugs or anything?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. I'm from the 70s.
I am the one who knocks.
Dear!
You think this is the real Quaid?
It was at this moment that these guys knew they fucked up.
It is.
I thought this was so much better than it is. It's so bad. Hold on. This has like 8,000 views. I know why. Here we go.
It was at this moment Edgar knew. He fucked up.
What does that sci-fi say?
It was at this moment Derek knew. He fucked up. It was at this moment Juan knew. He fucked up.
Did you do that?
Yeah, but they were all bad.
Ender, what?
I'm looking for my friends.
You're late like every fucking day, bro.
Can't do it.
It was at this moment that
I'm
Dante
sorry,
knew.
you guys. I should.
He fucked up.
I'm almost.
It was at this moment Kusai knew. He fucked up.
Wanna know why things happen and how?
There we go.
Couldn't start asking the right fucking questions.
It was at this moment that Gabriel knew. He fucked up.
fucked.
It was at this moment that
There's the
Chelsea
invite
knew
to Discord.
she fucked up.
That's his. That's my brother. All right, I'm going to stop it right there. But this was very successful. It was funny. So when he did this, I just wanted to put something on to end with. I'm just trying to entertain you guys. But it was funny because this, the website that was from, oh my gosh, all this blue light. The website that was from was called Vine, and it's a lot similar to like what TikTok is now. And they didn't show you your tallies for a long time. And so his name was Macaulay Quinn under that. And then one day they just opened up the stats and showed everyone. And he's like, oh my gosh, I'm viral. And he had like millions and millions of views on all those little videos you just saw. So it was kind of interesting. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm really tired and I'm going to go to sleep. But thank you for all for coming out. And I hope to see you soon. Peace.